Today is to provide all QBA coaches, including the guys that are paid coaches with our program, regional coordinators and instructors, as well as the volunteer coaches, some basic information about this year's program. That's pretty straightforward. We're obviously hoping to improve the quality and consistency of the product that we put on the paddock. All right, the product in this case being a baseball education program for our athletes. We want obviously the most qualified people that we can possibly have, giving our kids the best instruction, the best activities, all that sort of stuff. And given that they're paying for this program now, we want to make sure that the product that we produce is of a high quality and it is consistent across all regions. So while everybody's got their own unique experiences and all that sort of stuff, and we want to draw on everyone's experience and knowledge, we do have to have certain elements that are consistent across the board, and that's what this program is about. We need to make sure that the kids, whether they go to the Brisbane Southwest training session or the Brisbane North session, are still basically getting largely the same information and the same opportunities to develop. So we want to make sure that the information and activities that they do are of a high standard, but they're consistent across all of those regions. We want to provide coaches, so that's you guys, with opportunity for networking, discussion and learning. So, the best way to learn is to get in amongst other people who are doing the same stuff that you are and have some conversations and start some discussion. So hopefully this will give you guys an opportunity to get to know each other a little bit, and then as the program goes on, it's not just standoffish because you don't know who each other are. You can build a bit of rapport, and then as you get more confident and comfortable with each other, you guys can hopefully start some discussion and be happy to ask questions and all that sort of stuff. We've got some guys that have been involved in our program for a little while. They're all pretty approachable. I like to think of myself as someone who's pretty approachable. For those who don't know me, because of my mean, intimidating shaved head, that you guys might potentially be scared to come up and ask questions, but I like to think I'm pretty approachable, so by all means introduce yourself and come and have a chat anytime. We want to have an improved standard of coaching in Queensland such that our athletes get a higher standard of service all year round. All right, so we need to make sure in Queensland, we want to make sure that the standard of service that we provide the athletes in our state is better than anywhere else in the country. And you guys are at the coalface. You guys are our front line, with our clients, in this particular case, the athletes. Right, so you guys are the front line. You guys are the ones that are dealing with. You guys have the greatest influence on a day-to-day basis with the experience that these kids have in baseball. So, sometimes I go around and I see some good training sessions at club baseball. Other times I see some training sessions that aren't that great. My goal here is really to try and help improve the standard of service that all coaches in Queensland provide all year. So you guys, by the fact that you guys are willing to give up your Saturday morning and come out and listen to me waffle, that's a good start. Hopefully there'll be a bunch of other people that are here in the room right now and involved in the QBA program throughout the course of the year that will be able to help you guys share ideas so that together we can provide the best service to all athletes in Queensland. Obviously this is a big part of our long-term direction to make sure that athletes are improving and continue to get better. Just to go through what we're going to talk about in the two sessions that we've got. So we've got this session today, and then we've got another session on Friday the 9th. That one will be at the QAS, but we'll make sure that you guys get more information about that, but we'll just run through what we're going to cover today. So obviously I'm going to give you a quick introduction today on the whole purpose of what we're doing here, and the context in the current baseball environment, how that fits in, how you guys fit into our plan moving forward. Shane's going to talk about understanding the coaching process. He's going to help you try and understand exactly what it is that we're trying to do. So if you're trying to obviously provide excellent service in a given field, in this case coaching, you need to know exactly what it is, and we need to talk about exactly how we go about doing that. So he's going to help you do that. Then we're going to talk about long-term athlete development. So obviously within the QBA program we have our scholarship group, which are our top under 16 and under 18 athletes that we've selected as, at this stage, the most promising kids we have in our junior programs. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're the only guys that are going to go on to be good athletes. There's loads of other kids out there. Everybody develops at different rates. So it's not to say that because we pick a scholarship group that there's not other kids out there that aren't going to be just as good, once they get a little bit older, that sort of stuff. And the kids that aren't quite there yet, the kids that are the regional team programs or even the younger levels that aren't eligible for our program yet, how we develop those guys is going to be a little bit different to how we would develop, for instance, that scholarship group, how we would deal with the regional group, how we would deal with the under 14 kids that are going to be in our program this year, and how we would deal with Little League kids back at our own clubs or regions, that sort of stuff. So again, coming to this coaching education program is not going to be about just learning the skills and activities and exactly what we do here and then cookie cutting that and going and applying exactly the same stuff to your team. It's about helping you understand how this stuff is specifically related to this group. How could you do the same sorts of activities but potentially tailor them more appropriately to whatever age group you're working with? So we'll talk about that long-term athletic development, the process that athletes go through over the 10, 12 years that it takes to develop expertise, and we'll talk about that a bit later as well. And we'll touch on some specific coaching theory that we think is important in regards to this program. So first session, we talked about what we're going to do the first session. The second session, which is Friday the 9th of May, will be a little more on the coaching theory, and then we're going to go through understanding our hitting development model. We have a very specific approach we have to developing hitters, and I want to try and give you guys an opportunity to get your head around that a little bit more. So that'll be at the next session, not at this session. And then likewise, we're going to go through understanding our throwing and pitching development model, and we'll talk about why we do things in a particular way. Not to say there's not lots of different ways to do both of those things, but we have a particular approach that we want to we think is the best way to get most kids to learn as quickly as possible, and develop into the best hitters we can be, or they can be. So session 2 is Friday the 9th of May. Just so you know, challenges in the changing environment. The QBA's funding, so my job and the QBA program is funded by Baseball Australia, Queensland Academy of Sport and Baseball Queensland. Last year the funding we received from Baseball Australia was cut by 24% because of a big chunk of a big hit that they took in terms of their high performance funding. So when they passed that down to the states who deliver the programs, obviously there was a significant reduction from them as well. Our QAS funding, which is about 45% of our current budget, is not guaranteed past December of this year. So potentially we're in a situation where we don't have a whole lot of funding for this type program for next year. So that's where it's even more important that we engage with you guys, the coaches, at a club and regional level, and try and help you guys develop into the best coaches that you can be. So in potentially the absence of a centrally run high performance program, that our kids still get good opportunities to develop because they've got access to good coaching, at a club level as well. So obviously we don't know what's going to happen at this stage past December. Hopefully we do get some funding, but at this stage that's a big chunk of our funding not to get. So if that doesn't happen, we've got to have some contingencies in place. National and state funding, as we said, we've seen a shift towards grassroots and participation streams rather than the high performance stuff. And in the long run, that's projected to have a greater impact on our high performance streams, but in the short term it means less direct funding. So it's going to make things a little more challenging. The Baseball Australia Pathway Review. Has anyone not seen any of the information about the Pathway Review? It's obviously a big piece of research that Peter Gain largely directed. There was a number of people from all over the country that had some input into that, into some research about how we deliver our programs for kids and stuff like that, and they came out with a bunch of different findings and things that we can potentially slightly shift our direction in the way we deliver our programs to get the most return on our investment, the funding that we provide for it, and help kids develop. So if you haven't seen that information, make sure you sing out and get that information, because it's pretty good stuff. But these things support community-based competition stream rather than necessarily an elitist program where we select the best kids out of everything, and just put them in a group and only train those guys. The whole point now is to try and make sure that the ABF devotes a larger proportion of their resources, money and people and time, towards programs that I guess involve more of a greater percentage of our participation base. Athlete retention will be dependent on increasing the diversity of opportunities for all athletes to meet the needs of a greater percentage of our participation base, as we talked about. The whole idea is to try and get more of the athletes that we do actually sign on, get them to stay in the sport.